Hello and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I am going to go over the buyer's packet that you've received and make sure that you understand steps 1 through 9 in the basics of how to buy a home. The first step is to make sure that you meet with an agent, at least one, and decide who you're going to go with for the purchase of your home. It's important to know that the buyer does not pay anything for the services of a real estate agent. Everything is paid for by the seller. So both sides are covered and you don't pay a dime to have an actual agent represent you, which is an excellent reason to hire one. Step 2, you want to make sure that your credit is great, that you have a down payment to put down, and that you have steady work history. Those are the 3 things that the lender is going to look at to make sure that they have a qualified buyer. Step 3 is to explore the market. This is a really exciting part of the journey because we get to go check out different houses. Now, normally we get to look at pretty much anything that sparks your interest, but in the current times that we're in, we've been relying a lot on virtual tours, making sure we check out any 3D spaces, videos that the property might show us. Vacant houses are a little bit easier to tour, but if it's somewhere where someone's living, we want to make sure that it's really a home that you're interested in buying before we go into their home. Step 4 is basically when you found the home, you want to put in an offer. At that point, I will have my quality control specialist go through the home and basically do a pre-inspection. My dad actually spent 30 years remodeling homes in Southwest Florida, so he has a pretty good eye when it comes to ideas that you might have in whether or not you want to take out a wall or add a window somewhere, or how expensive it would be to change the flooring in a home. We'll walk through the house and make sure that there aren't any wet spots or obvious mold. He'll check out all of those spaces that you're not willing to crawl into. And then once we're sure that you really want to purchase the home, we'll put in a super strong offer, which brings us to step 5. Number 5 is to submit an offer, and it's really exciting because we're able to do some smart moves in this. I'll gather as much information about the seller as I can to make sure that we are providing a contract that they want to sign. It's important to have an agent who really understands the ins and outs of a buy contract so that you're able to submit something that is a strong contract without necessarily paying top dollar. So you want to make sure that you're working with somebody who has your best interest in mind and will be able to get that done. So the first thing that you're going to do after you go under contract that you're actually responsible for as the buyer is to make sure that the earnest money gets to the title company. It's usually about 1% of the purchase price. It's just to ensure that if for whatever reason you got to the closing table and you decided, I don't like the color of the outside of this house anymore, so we don't want to buy it, the seller at that point would be able to keep the earnest money in order to protect themselves. So there's a lot of different issues that can happen by taking your home off the market for 30 days and then not closing. So we want to make sure that they have something if for whatever reason it's our fault that happens. And when you make it to the closing table with your earnest money, it goes towards your down payment. It's almost like a layover fee. So if you really, really want a home, you put down this earnest money fee, and that money actually goes hard immediately. So the title company will cash the check for 1% of the purchase price and hold it in escrow. And they will have that money safely tucked away until you get to the closing table. So step number 6 is when we get to inspection. So we want to make sure at the very beginning of this transaction, like within the first week, that we are positive that this house is solid. If there are any issues with the home, we're able to object with an inspection objection. And basically what that is saying, hey, we noticed that there's a leak in the roof, so we'd really like that to get fixed. And before we move forward, we want to make sure that that is done. If for whatever reason at that point, the sellers decide that they are not willing to fix the roof issue, then the buyers have the option to terminate. And we basically have to come to a resolution as the buyers and sellers before a certain point, or the contract will terminate automatically. And that's basically the same type of process throughout the transaction for a lot of the deadlines, including HOA, inspection, and appraisal. So that brings us to number 7, which is to order title and get an appraiser in the home. When we order title, we're going to be checking for things like liens and encumbrances. To simply explain a lien on a title is if a contractor came in and did a bunch of work and then the homeowner didn't pay them and then put the house up for sale. The lien on the home makes sure that that person gets paid before the sale of the home can be complete. So if anything like that is happening, we'll find out about it at that stage. The appraiser We'll come in and check out the value of the home in comparison to homes around it that have recently sold, because we want to make sure that the home is really worth what it's being sold for, since there's going to be a loan on it, and the bank wants to make sure that they're making a smart purchase. We're almost to the finish line at this point, and insurance and financing are the last few things that we're going to check off the list. Property insurance will basically make sure that if for whatever reason something happens to the home where it's completely gone, the bank doesn't lose their money because you have insurance that will cover it for things like a fire or weather damage. It is also important to make sure that you take a look at the numbers that come through from your lender the last week before we close. Those are going to be your final numbers for your financing. So you'll have numbers like how much you're going to be paying monthly and what your interest percentage is finalized as. You just want to make sure you go through those numbers with the lender, make sure everything looks exactly as it should, because the loan termination deadline is our last opportunity to pull out of the contract and still get that earnest money back for you. So it's really important that we make sure we pay attention to that deadline. The last thing that we do before closing is do a final walkthrough, usually the morning of, to make sure that the house is still in perfect condition as it was when we were last there. And when we're sure that the house still looks and smells and seems exactly as it should, we go to the closing table. You sign 100 pieces of paper with your full name, and then you are officially a homeowner. So it's a really exciting day, and I look forward to getting you there. Please let me know what questions you've got written down for me after watching this video, and I really look forward to chatting with you in regard to exactly what it is that you're looking for. I'll talk to you soon.